Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/slash Tales from Tech Support. In today's episode, Dear Director, you getting a new hard drive. I can do this over lunch or you lose the computer for an entire day. Your call. The easiest overtime ever. Mr. Know-It-All does not know it all. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Dear Director, you getting a new hard drive. I can do this over lunch or you lose the computer for an entire day. Your call. User complains that her laptop is slow. Understandable, reasonable complaint. Hit by the Windows 10 1909 bug, which makes any laptop with a mechanical drive unusable with anything other than an SSD, because reasons. Common problem, common fix. I pop in a SSD and presto. The machine is usable again. I tell the users all you have to do is make sure that your files are saved in OneDrive so I can put in a new drive, give you a clean image, and you're back up and running in 30-40 minutes tops. Easy peasy, I do it all the time. I have one user who refuses to put her documents in OneDrive. She needs them to be on her desktop. It is the only way she can work. They cannot be anywhere else. Desktop sync isn't enabled on her machine, and I can't get her to give it up long enough to turn it on. So I say we can move them to OneDrive. I swap the drive, then we can move them back. No. You cannot put those files in OneDrive. I cannot function if those files ever exist anywhere else. Even temporarily. I tell all users that I do not back up laptops. If they are worried about important files, they need to keep them on OneDrive. I had one user who lost critical files because she refused to keep them in OneDrive because it was too complicated, then her HDD crashed. A few months later she dropped the laptop and lost critical files again. After that she started keeping everything in OD. Okay, so if you won't back up your files, then I'll clone the drive. Instead of 30 minutes, plan on me keeping the laptop for 8 hours. Or stay with the slow drive. You have 3 choices here. One gives you a faster drive and keeps important files safe, the other 2 do not. Your choice. So she sighed and got all snotty, but handed in her laptop. Before I had a chance to start the cloning process, I got sidetracked with a major system outage, a CXO with an urgent state required problem, a user who was pissed that I was asking her to walk 20 feet to the next printer because the one she wanted to use was just delivered and not fully configured yet, and copped an attitude because scanning 120 pages in full color results in a file too large to send via email, had 2 walkthroughs with cabling contractors, an HR director who didn't understand why she couldn't access the files that were saved in an underling's personal OneDrive folder after said user left and her account was turned off, a printer that wasn't working until the tech got here then stopped working again the moment he left, had to complete the training of a key employee because the person who was supposed to do the training didn't finish, and a few others things. 2 hours into the 8-hour window I had given the first user, before I had even had a chance to start on the cloning process, that the world will end unless this file is on my desktop, user demanded her laptop back right that second because she had an important meeting. She was lucky I hadn't started yet, so I told her to just take it back. I'll deal with it later. I'm going to miss the chaos. I thrive in this kind of environment. Good luck finding somebody to replace me. So that was my morning. How was your day? The easiest overtime ever. Hello. No, this isn't the story mentioned in my last post. I'm still figuring out how to tell that one, but this story crossed my mind and I thought it would be interesting to tell. Players. Me, I'm here. This took place, about 4 years ago now. Our IT infrastructure company had been contracted to install the data, access control, and camera systems for a new tortilla factory. There was actually very little data and access control, mostly limited to WAPs and the administration areas. There were, however, over 100 cameras, with complete coverage of the production and packaging areas. Because they wanted HD quality recording practically 24/7, they needed a 7-figure camera server to handle the video. All of that was not particularly difficult, and it was even quite fun to learn how to configure the cameras and add them to the system. The issue came after they had their electrical inspection. They failed so hard that the owners fired the electrician for gross incompetence. For reference on how bad it was, one of the feeder lines for a breaker panel was attached to the wall by screwing through the conduit. They then hired a new electrician who called all hands on deck to make it right. So how do I fit into all of this? How do I get the easiest overtime ever? One Saturday, they needed to completely shut off power to the half of the building that contained the main communication room. This meant their fancy camera server would go offline. As we weren't done configuring the system, we hadn't turned over the passwords, so we had to go handle it in person. My boss explained this to me Friday afternoon. He then gave me the following instructions. Ask the electricians for a corded plug to feed the UPS from a powered part of the building. If that failed, log in and perform a graceful shutdown to protect the system from possible corruptions due to the UPS shutting down. If you are like how I was at the time, you might be thinking, why do we need to shut it down if there's a UPS? Turns out that the UPS only lasts for about 30 minutes, it's only ever meant to be a bridge until the on-site backup generators kick in. I arrive on site and my first order of business is to find an electrician. Done, they're everywhere. Then the conversation goes a little something like this. Me, hey, do you guys have a corded plug? Electrician, the hell is a corded plug? We go back and forth, asking other electricians, calling my boss for clarification. He only ever repeats the term corded plug like that's perfectly clear for about an hour. As we're coming up on T0 for power off, the electrician finally says, "Wait, does he mean extension cord? Because yes, we have some of those, but none long enough for what you need." Primes.exe has stopped responding. I rush into the comm room and log in, shutting the server down just as they hit the disconnect and the lights go dark. I then call my boss to ask if I need to do anything else. Nope, the system will start automatically when they turn the server back on. Come on home, you still have a lawn to mow. Did I mention my boss is also my dad? So that's the story of getting paid an hour of overtime for shutting down a server. Mr. Know-It-All does not know it all. A while ago, I got a funny ticket from a well-known problem user. He had it all, thought he knew everything, was impatient, acted disrespectfully, and best of all throttled his system every chance he got. I can't count how many laptops this guy went through under my care. One day, he put in a ticket about not being able to connect to the VPN. My stomach sank and I knew I was in for a bad morning. Usually, these issues aren't too complicated, but this guy took things to another level with his complaints and general bad nature. I start off by making sure he has the right access. Check. Next I look at the firewall logs to see if there's any errors coming from his system when he tries to connect. There are some errors, but they actually don't point me anywhere useful. I'm a bit lost at this point and illogically try to ping his machine just because I don't know what else to do other than tell him to reinstall his VPN client. Surprise, it works. Oddly enough, it doesn't have an IP from the VPN's DHCP scope, which makes no sense. I fired back a carefully typed email asking where he was connecting from. He replied, from company HQ Building D. Turns out this genius was visiting the company HQ and trying to connect to the VPN, but couldn't figure out why it wasn't working for him. He could have accessed everything on the network without the VPN, but instead tried and failed, then got frustrated and made a ticket. Of course, upon realizing his mistake, he left no reply, whereas on other tickets, he will leave complaints if the solution doesn't perfectly fit his needs. Moral of the story: everyone makes mistakes, even people who act like they don't.